Okay, we're on a Whirlpool Cabrio washer, and the bearings are bad. So to keep this lit up, I just used a piece of electrical wire, tied it here to the spring, and then went up and tied it to the lid. And once I did that, you go in here, you have a plastic cover that just pops out. You have a little notch here where you can put a screwdriver under. That comes out. This is a 7/16 bolt that you need to pop loose. This comes up. Pull that straight up. It's easier if you have two hands. I'm trying to film here. Yep, two hands. So once you get to this part, you have a little ring, plastic ring. You actually have 5 bolts or screws in here that lock it down here into here. So you have to loosen all those 5 screws, not bolts. And now I have this ring right here. Looks like it's a plastic ring right here, and it's stuck on the shaft, and I can't get it up. Guess I'll just try to keep working it back and forth and see if I can get this thing to come up. If I can't get it this way, well, I'll actually probably just end up going on the bottom side, taking the stator and the rotor off. You have to get that off with a 1/4-inch Allen wrench, and go from there and see what I can figure out from there. Okay, I tipped it over to get it on its side so I get to the bottom of the stator and the rotor, right down there. But just be careful when you do this, because with the lid open, as I leaned it over, it just wanted to flip open. Almost ripped the electrical connectors out. So I just put a piece of duct tape here to keep it closed. So this is a 1/4-inch Allen wrench. You have 4 bolts that are 3/8 that hold the stator on. Here's the rotor right over there. So just take these loose. We should be able to get the rotor off, or the stator off, I'm sorry. These might be rusted on there, so I'll put you down, but you gotta get these 4 bolts out. So I'm on the last 2 bolts to get this off. I actually marked it right here with a black magic marker, and I marked the stator as well. That way I know exactly which way it goes back on. Okay, so I got it out. Next thing you want to do, don't yank it out because you have sensors connected to it. So just take your time. These just snap out. You might need a small screwdriver to get them out, but they just snap out. Okay, next thing we got to do, we got to take off this nut right here. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. I'm going to get a big pair of channel locks and grab onto this thing and just twist it off. Alright, so this bolt is, this bolt. So this nut is really rusted on there. What it's doing when I have a big crescent wrench that I had on there, and as I turn it, it just turns the whole shaft. I got a pair of vice grips, and I went on to the end of the shaft, vice gripped that down, and tried getting the crescent wrench back in there to free it loose, but no luck. So I actually had to go to O'Reilly Auto Parts, picked up a 1/2-inch, 1 1/4 inch socket, deep socket. This also worked with a 1/2-inch 32mm deep socket as well, if you have that in hand. Just the 1 1/4 fit a little bit better. That's why I went with it. But if you have a 32mm long 1/2-inch socket, that'll work as well. So I'm actually put this on here. I'm going to put my impact gun on there. See if I can break this thing free. It's so rusted on there. I'm not looking forward to getting the bearing out. So let's go ahead. Let's move forward. Can't stop now. Okay, so I had a 1/2-inch impact gun with the socket I picked up from O'Reilly. I got it out, took it off no problem. You guys might need to use this if it's really stuck on there. Okay, so the drum is stuck in there. I've been trying to yank up on it, but just won't come out. So what I'm going to do, I'll put a link in the description below of another video of a guy that did this as well. But I'm going to cut this piece of wood to 21 3/4 inches. I'm going to put this down here. There's a lip right down here that you can put the wood onto. And I'm going to get an old car jack, like a scissor. It's an old scissor car jack. Put it down here. Put the bottom on this, and start raising the jack up and push the drum out, using a piece of wood as a brace and tucked under here to get it up and out. So I'm just going to cut the wood here real quick. Whenever you're cutting wood, measure twice, cut once. Okay, so I cut the wood to 21 3/4 inches. Fits like a glove. Got an old scissor floor jack right there. And I'm just going to start twisting this by hand. So once you get it high enough, it'll actually just sit in there. So I can feel it lifting up as I'm doing this. If you need to, just get a small screwdriver, stick it into the hole to be able to help you turn it, get some leverage on it. Okay, so it's best if you use a 2x4 or 4x4. That thin piece of wood that I was using just started to bend and flex, so I had to actually use a different piece of wood, just a thicker piece of wood. So you can see there I got the drum out, sticking my finger down there. There's a lot of muck and mud. I don't think that's mold, but it does stink. It smells awful. It smells very, very bad. So now the drum is out of the washer, and there's the, I want to say inner tub, but that's probably wrong. All that water, and that's mold down there. I know a lot of guys show videos of them doing this in their laundry room, but it's best if you take this thing outside. You need to wash out the tub and the drum itself, just showing you more of the mold in there, and this thing smelled awful. My wife really hated how it smelled. I did too. It smelled disgusting. It smelled like rotten food, I want to say. It was just mold down there. So your best bet is to get all this stuff out, is to go ahead and take it outside and hose this thing down. I'm going to show you here in a second that I just took a hose, sprayed everything down, and then at the very end I vacuum it all up once it's dried out, because you'll have some residual mud and muck left over. But yeah, right there, just getting a hose, garden hose, and just spraying everything out. To the far left, I'll show you in a second, but there's a plate right there that you need to take out as well, and hose that off as well too. But that comes up in the video a bit longer. So I'm just hosing off the drum. Alright, so you saw in that video before I went in there with a hose and sprayed all this down. There's about a quarter inch of mud, not mud, mold in the bottom of this thing. Obviously it hasn't been draining right, so that's why it was stinking inside of there. If you guys are going to do this repair, it's best to take it outside and do it so you can hose all this stuff off. I know the other videos I've seen, guys are actually doing it on the inside of their laundry room, but you need a hose to hose all this stuff out. What nastiness. So we got to replace this shaft right here. The bearings inside there. Shouldn't be too bad. I'm going to show you a tool that I created. I know they sell the tools for $100 plus, which is ridiculous. But I went to my local Ace Hardware store. Actually, it's called the Do It Center here in Riverside, California. And then I'm going to Lowe's to get the rest of the washers. But I'll show you what I put together, and it cost me about 12 bucks. Forget spending $100 on this. I already spent enough on the parts. I'll put a link in the description below of the shaft and the bearing kit, the seal, all that stuff. It's about 76 bucks. This thing also needed cleaning. All this is mold here. There's mold on the outside of the drum. I guess I should have put some wood down or something so it's not scratching the... So I'll spray this out too. But what nastiness, dude. It's gross. I do not recommend Whirlpool Cabrio washers at all to anybody. I wish I had my old standard one. Wish I'd never get out my old washer. Okay, so I just got the old shaft out. It wasn't very hard at all. With it on its side like this. It was sticking out, obviously right here was the bottom. I just took a little 1 pound sledgehammer and knocked it out, knocked it off. Now I got to pull the bearings out. There's that crush ring. And this rubber piece sits on top. Just make sure you note which way this goes. So let me pull the bearings out. Okay, for this next part, you're going to need a chisel or a piece of steel, something long that you can use to get in there to push the bearing out. You're actually going to smack it out with a hammer and a chisel. This is actually the inside of a shock that I'm using. So I'm going in from the inside and I'm knocking out the back bearing first. Just a couple of love taps and the bearing will pop out. You have a crush washer in there, and you also have a steel sleeve, and all that comes with a new kit as well, so don't worry about that. It'll actually go, when you're putting everything back together, goes steel sleeve, crush washer, and then bearing. There's the old bearing. It is rusted. There's the old crush washer, rusted too, and then I'll pull the sleeve out here in a second, and that's rusted as well. The next step is to clean that part of the, no, not the tub. You got to clean that out. Clean that out to the best of your ability. I got in there with a rag, some brake cleaner. Just clean it out as well as you can, because you need that area cleaned out to be able to put the new bearings in. And then I came in from the bottom and knocked out the top bearing. Clean it out. Get all the mold, and it's actually rust that's in there. What happens is the seal fails on top, and then it fills up with water, and over time it just rusts the bearings out. So clean that up,
cleaning that up, and then I'm also cleaning up the bottom of the washer, because when it failed, it splattered, looked like oil and mud mixed together, so it splattered that everywhere. So clean up the bottom of the washer as well while you're down there. But yeah, spend some time and clean that clean the area out where the bearing goes, because you need that as clean as possible when you seal everything back up. Now right here I'm taking that plate off. There's 2 screws that hold it on. You want to take that off and check that for mold. You'll see here in a second it's covered in mold right there. So I just took a hose and sprayed all that off.
Okay, so we're back inside the drum. Right back here there was a white plate that I took off. All kinds of mold had built up in that, so it's a good idea to take that off as well. And then clean this out right down here. There's a lot of mold down there as well. These are the drain pump and the suction pump, I think. I don't know the technical terms, but got to clean that out. And then also right here, before I put in the new bearings, there's a drain plug that you need to make sure it's cleared out. I just got a cotter pin I use for brake jobs and stuck it down there, cleaning it out. Then I will also tip this on its side again and hose it all out. Another thing is, when I tipped it on its side, right down there, you see all kinds of mold. These washers are just so cheaply made. No joke. You could rebuild this whole thing in, well, I don't know, a couple hours, I guess. So not very much to them at all. So just clean this up as well as possible, and I'm going to start installing the bearing. Let me show you this tool that I made. So here are the new bearings. I hadn't been able to find anything online. So this is my dirty work table that I've been using to do all this stuff. There's no instruction that come with the kit. So these are the 2 new bearings, right? I think it's best to buy this kit. It comes with everything you need. That rubber shim, a new washer, and wherever my new nut as well. But I want to show you what these bearings, the markings on these bearings, in case you just want to buy the bearings. So the bearing says YF. The number on the larger one is 6006R as in Romeo, Z as in zebra. On the smaller one it says DG, and the number here is 6005 Romeo Sierra. So I just want to give you those part numbers. But yeah, the kit comes with everything you need. The new shaft. You gotta put this spacer plate in. Oh, I don't know what you call that off the top of my head. So let me show you what I made to put in new bearings. Okay, so I have what is that? About 1 foot of all thread, right? And I'll put a picture up of the tool that they actually sell. So then I got 2 nuts, 5/8 nuts, and the reason I got 2 of them because you're going to tighten these down so that they don't move. You're actually going to tighten them together, and this one's going to be on the bottom, and you're going to tighten the bottom one up to compress the bearings. So the key thing to remember is, once I got the kit, that's when I actually started looking for the new for the washers. I wanted to find a washer that was close in size to the bearing, and I got 2 of them because I wanted to slip on each other. So I might put some grease on each washer so it slides a little bit easier. And then because you don't want to get a washer that's too small that's running on the black area, because if you do that, then you run the risk of popping the inner race out. So I wanted a bearing that was just a little bit over. Just a little bit over, so that wouldn't ride on the inside. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'll show you when I get there. But this cost me about 12 bucks, I think, less than $15. So why would you want to spend $100 on a tool that you're only going to use once? And I looked really hard. I looked high and low for somebody that would rent me one. There was one company out there, but they wanted, oh, I don't know, $76 and a $25 deposit.
So I thought, man, I could make this myself. I read another post, I think it was on Amazon, where somebody made their own as well this way. But I just want to show you what this is all about. So let's get these bearings installed, figure out what these, looks like it comes with a metal adhesive. And this must be some kind of grease they put in there. Alright, what I'm showing you right there is the piece that I pulled out, the little plastic piece that was covered in mold. I just took a hose and sprayed it all down. And just make sure you reinstall it when you get back in there. So the tool I made, it helped me start the bearings, but it didn't push them in totally, so I had to coax them in with some love taps. The bottom bearing was just there, and then working on the top bearing. So just so you know, the bottom bearing will stick out just a little bit, maybe 1/4 of an inch from the bottom of the tub. The top bearing will be totally flush. Just using different methods to get this in there. As you can see right there, I have a large socket that I'm using. It's a 36mm socket, and I also have the punch that I use to get out the bearings. I'm trying to drive the top bearing in a little bit farther so it's flush, and then I also put the shaft in there and then tap that in to get that bearing to seat correctly. The key thing to remember is that bearing has to be flush, because the seal that comes in here later on, that has to be flush as well, flush right with the top of the tub. So right there you can see I'm checking the seal to make sure that it's flush, and it's not all the way there yet, so I'm driving that in a little bit farther. The sealant that I used is RTV, and I'll put a link in the description below. Picked it up from O'Reilly Auto Parts. I'll also put a link in the description below of the video where I talk about the certain tools that I used to complete this job. But yeah, I'm also checking right there that the shaft spins correctly and everything's working right. But yeah, it took a little bit of effort to get the bearings in and to seat them correctly. So right there, I'm just putting a little bit of I want to call it silicone, help it slide on the shaft a little bit better, and putting it down there. Waterproof seal listed in the description below. It's a RTV from O'Reilly Auto Parts that I'll put down there. So right there, I'm just applying the RTV. Then I'll spread it around with my finger. You can see right there, spread it around. I'm going to push it into place. So in the description below, there is a link to a video of where all the tools I used. So I'm pushing it down with my fingers, and then I'll bring in the PVC pipe and push that down. I got this at a local Ace Hardware. You can probably pick it up from Lowe's or Home Depot. Just make sure that's long enough to fit completely over the shaft, and that the diameter is about the same diameter as the seal itself. I couldn't get that piece until I actually got the bearing kit that came with the seal, so I could make sure that the tool would fit over the seal. So then I just take RTV and I coat it on top. You also have to let this thing dry for 24 hours before I even tried it, so make sure you let this dry completely. And I'm putting the white piece of plastic right back there that I cleaned out, got all the mold off of. Then I go ahead and vacuum all that up, all the residual. Now I'm putting the tub back in, put the plastic pieces back on top, put the cap back in, put the bolt back in. Put this back in. You know, pretty self-explanatory. I don't go into detail on how to put the rotor and the stator all back in. If you've gotten this far in the video, you know exactly how to put that back together. It all makes sense. You'll see it there, so I won't bore you with that or insult your intelligence. Putting all six screws back into place to hold that into place, and you put in the agitator as well. I'm just spinning it there so you can see how smooth the action is. 100% better, like brand new once you get to this point. Bring in the agitator, and now bring in the bolt and then the white plastic cap. If you have found this video helpful or any of my other videos helpful, please consider subscribing to Bunny's Garage on YouTube. Questions, comments, concerns, you can reach out to me at bunnysgarage@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter, and like always, I'll keep them rolling for you.